Hello and welcome to this Voice of MPE podcast. Today, I'm very, very happy to have Alex Todorovic as my guest. We are going to talk about a topic which is very close to my heart, and I think it's also very close to the heart of Alex, is the career in payments. And this episode is really part of the series of MPE Talks, where we are bringing the insights from industry-leading professionals and payment leaders. So welcome, Alex, to this episode of MPE.
Thank you so much for having me, Vassilina.
So maybe just before we start, a short introduction of myself. My name is Vassilina Walford. I'm a founder of Payment Vibes. It's a consulting company, and before that, I was really on the merchant side of payments for 20 years. So welcome, Alex, to this episode, and we are going to talk about career and payments. We share a little bit of similar paths in career. We both started in Treasury, and after we branched out to different, I would say, career paths in payments. But I would really love to hear, I think you really have a very interesting kind of career path, starting in Treasury, moving to product. But I think as we also discussed, during our conversations when we were preparing this podcast, is that especially on the merchant side, many people are kind of admitting that they are falling into the payments a little bit by accident. And I think you share that as well. And maybe you can describe, how did your career in payments started and how did it evolve?
Yes, thank you. So I think it's so funny that people are just falling into payments. Usually, like when you meet people, they say, I always wanted to do this. And somehow everyone around me in payments has, like you said, has fallen into it and found this to be an industry, an interesting industry by accident, including me as well. Basically some years ago during my master's studies, I was looking for a job and I found one with Porsche. However, it was in the Treasury and Cash Management department. And that was just about the same time when like big corporations and companies started picking up the topic around payments and noticed that it's an important thing, of course. Porsche Group was one of them. In that role, we were like slowly setting up the department. I started from scratch, actually, in that role, learning payment flows, decline reason codes, payment statuses, like different sales channels, e-commerce, post-motor, like all of that, which gave me like a really, really good understanding of anything I needed to do afterwards. So I'm super happy that I started that role like from scratch. And that also helped me in the end, like lead global payment integration projects in the end and understand what merchants want. And with time, I noticed that payments was kind of like matching me as a personality more than finance and treasury. And like, I think today I can't even understand why I studied finance in the first place, but I guess you can't study payments yet. But it was modern, innovative, fast, international, while the other side is not so much. So I fell in love, with that, and I still am.
And, what we've seen, and we discussed that as well, now today payments sit a little bit, in different functions. I think Treasury is still one of the maybe main functions where payments sit because of the kind of legacy, the Treasury is owning the banking relationship, etc. So it kind of originates there, but we also see now it goes to product, commercial, etc. But, just kind of with your now, kind of you went through this process of, really understanding payments, but under the Treasury kind of ownership. How would you say, how did it impact your kind of mindset about the payments when payments are sitting under Treasury? And kind of why do you think it potentially can go more towards the product mindset more than, pure Treasury kind of approach?
Totally. I think it's a really good development that we're doing, pulling from Treasury into like more, it's like a more fintech, tech, product-driven mindsets. And I think this is like easily explainable if you look into the past. How many corporations started was like looking at payments through the lens of finance, right? It was just like one more way to accept money. You had like currency risk if you're like selling in different countries. You had accounting, accounts receivable, and like all of that. But it was just like an alternative to cash, right? And it was like more this project mindset where something, for example, like also for POS or for online shops, like company would like just set up once the entire payment system that they have and leave it alone as long as everything is running. So it was like also seen like through the lenses of this is a cost center, right? And some unfortunately might still have that view. But I think in the last few years, what we see is like shifting. What you also said is this like new era uprising. It's actually like a way to make money. It's not something that can be left alone and not picked up again for years, but we have to keep evolving. And this like continuously improving mindset is exactly the product mindset. It can also like help you turn it into a profit center and give your product, like not your payments product, but like actually the product you're selling as a company. It can give that product a competitive edge that you need to set yourself apart from the competition. And in the end, it can also shape for really big brands that want to push their brand identity. It can absolutely also shape how customers perceive your brand. And this is something actually really beautiful, where the companies that are like I wouldn't even say early adopters anymore because like many companies are doing it, but like if they're weaving payments into their product, I think is really a beautiful thing to see and to do. So yeah, there are like endless opportunities. For me, it's a must if you want to keep up. It's not a side thing anymore. But yeah, it's clearly now that you can see you cannot have a traditional mindset with that approach, right? It's like not about controlling costs or anything, and especially also like with fintech, tech is involved too. So we need that product mindset with like value-added services and orchestration, all of that we have.
And I think that's probably one of the challenges which now starts to kind of popping up a lot when it sits in functions like Treasury, because Treasury, by kind of by its nature, it's long term, right? The speed is completely different. So when you have payments within that, the speed of change, the speed of evolution of innovation is completely different from kind of corporate, finance.
Absolutely.
Treasury perspective. So basically, I think you started in Porsche and kind of fell into the payments by accident. You really love that, and from our discussions, I understand that you really were involved in creating the payment team, payment structure from scratch. So what could be some kind of key challenges or lessons learned that you can maybe share with us?
Yeah, good question. So for me, it's a lot about the people, let's say. And for me, like I have two things which were always like key, and that it takes a good team with the right mindset, and it takes also good partners that work with you hand in hand for that. Leaving like all of the other structural things aside, but I think these are like two key things. And it really depends on where you are in that journey of the mindset, what we were like touching before. If it's like a cost center or like if we want to really go deep into payments, and which stakeholders you need to convince. If the mindset is aligned, it will be one big challenge less, and you can actually tackle the real problems that you have. And yeah, so I would say, look for detail-oriented people who adore payments, because in payments, you can't stay on the superficial level. You really have to go deep into it. You have to be willing to roll up your sleeves, go down the rabbit hole, find out what's going on. Because in the end, this is something that we all want to find out with payments, why a payment isn't going through, or like why we have a low acceptance rate and like all of that. So we all want to understand complex flows. And for that, it needs that particular person who loves to do that and doesn't stay like on the superficial level. And also the other thing about partners is something that I'm actually seeing that is shifting right now, because in the beginning, payments was like a village. We had a couple of providers that we can pick from. I think many companies picked like one PSP as their like partner in crime. And now we have lots of
Forever.
yeah, we have like lots of different providers popping up, like small ones and etc. And also now with orchestration, it's I wouldn't say like, yeah, it's probably easier to switch, right? Like you have more choice also. But this tool, such like as orchestration, should really give you that power back to pick the right partners as well.
Yes.
And especially like, yeah, also partners.
No, I think that's definitely
yeah.
Yes. No, definitely. I think the whole kind of ecosystem of providers changed. When I started in payment, we used to still, go to our local bank for payment acquiring. Then there was, this whole kind of new era of providers coming in, and now it's really, like you say, it's just expanding all the time. So I think that's definitely gives the merchants much more choice and kind of freedom. And I think I quite like, your detail. I think we spoke as well about that. You need to have people who have this ability to really go deep in the detail, but they also need to have this ability to kind of zoom in, but also zoom out, because, sometimes it kind of can be very detailed and very technical, but, like really be able to zoom out as well and see big picture and kind of have a strategic view as well about payments.
Definitely.
And so now maybe I'm kind of going more into the, you recently made the change in your career. You decided to basically go from the merchant side into the provider world. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more, what motivated that move, what are the aspirations behind?
Yeah, so for me, it was really, really nice. I have to say, on the merchant side, especially like on Porsche side, I learned a lot in like over 5 years that I've been with them, because they had lots of different use cases, lots of global projects. So on that side, like being on the merchant side was really, really satisfying. But at some point, I wanted to learn and see something new, and then it was kind of limiting for me, and I didn't want to like drop one payments thing over the other, kind of. And I think on the vendor side, like on a provider side, you are somehow also deeper in payments, right? Like you see actually behind the scenes how things are cooking up. As a merchant, you will always like get your custom sized bit of something that you ordered, right? So you won't see the big picture. And for me, that is like, if you have lots of different colors, you have like, I don't know, 24 colors, you're only coloring with 5, and I wanted to color with 25 colors. So yeah, this is basically the reason why I said like, let's try to be on the provider side and see what's happening there.
Yes. No, I think that's a very interesting, and then you come back to the merchant to really kind of say what's really possible.
This was something that I think is also key. If you go to the provider side, like many people haven't been on the merchant side beforehand, and it helps a lot if you've been on the merchant side before and you go to the provider side, because you know exactly how important certain things are, what they're like looking after, and so on. So you can like make that custom sized piece of cake better custom size for them, and really understand what they need.
Yes.
So it's amazing like to have that shift.
Yes, no. And I think another point which we also discussed, which is quite interesting, I think when you speak payments, you talk payments even on the merchant side. I mean, mostly on the merchant side, it's really perceived, but even in the industry, it's really perceived as very kind of something very techy, very technical, very niche, very kind of backbone, something very, very kind of exclusive, which is true to some extent. But I think what we also spoke about is there is this element of human kind of touch and the community, and how it's important actually in the payment world, which is relatively still small, everyone knows everyone, and how basically to leverage that community to learn and to share best practices. So maybe you can also give us a little bit of your kind of insights into the importance of the community and kind of networking in the payment space.
Yes. So something that you said beautifully is like everyone knows everyone in the payments industry. And I think this is something that is so great for newcomers to explore and also to exploit. So for me personally, also, I think I tapped into a whole different sea of knowledge after I started using networking, after I started going to meetups. And I think now I'm also organizing and hosting my own meetup with 2 other hosts, so that we can exactly keep this momentum going of exchanging knowledge, and not just like between merchants, but also like merchant to provider, provider to provider, and so on, because it's key. Payments is so complex. Fintechs is so complex. There are so many things. I think now we're actually in this period where it's not a niche anymore, but like we have niches within payments, right? Like you have to start specializing within payments, because you can't say anymore you're a payment expert. Like you can't be an expert in everything anymore, because it's so big and extensive. And this is why I think I love the entire community and how helpful everyone is, because everyone loves payments so much. You don't have to pay them that they talk to you about payments. They would just like keep talking forever about payments. So yeah, this is something really, really nice that I saw. And one story, for example, also that I have to tell, when I was like playing around with the idea if I want to go to the vendor side, I was reaching out to a couple of people to pick their brains, like, where's my place? Like, can you give me some insight, some tips maybe? And I reached out to Nadia Bennett, and I asked her like, hey, can I pick your brain for like 5 minutes? And she had a call with me. She was super nice. And like, she told me how also, like, as a woman in payments, how her career was starting and going on and so on. And then she was like, hey, let me put you in touch with my friend Louise, because she actually made the switch from merchant side to provider side. And Louise was like also super nice and like very much like, telling me how she started and how like it's going for her. And then basically she was like, let me put you in touch with Gary, because he's on the merchant side, but like as a product manager, he can tell you how it's what it's like to be a product manager in payments. So like everyone kind of like led me to another person, which is like this multiplication effect, and it was just really beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's quite amazing, the power of network and the power of kind of community sense, that is quite shared. I agree with you within the payment community. It's quite amazing. So maybe just kind of in terms of last question. Before we start to wrap up, I think definitely there was like over the last few years a huge change, in many different aspects of payments, from kind of ownership where it used to sit, finance, treasury, moving towards more kind of product, from the, as you say, it's like niches within a niche, sub niches. It becomes so complex that you really can't master all the different technicalities or technical aspects from the payments. This ability to kind of zoom in and really kind of understand the complexity in detail, but also have this ability to zoom out and see the big picture and where we are moving, kind of 3 years ahead, etc., managing all these different stakeholders. So I think it does, become quite complex, very interesting. I think it's one of the most dynamic spaces I've been, but also very complex. And, for the kind of new entrants, for people who are now, and I assume there will be more and more people who will want to start in payment, not to fall there by accident, but to really start their career in payments. What kind of advice or new skills would you tell them, to kind of look for or develop, or, kind of maybe an advice that you would give to these people?
Yes. So I'm actually discussing right now the same thing with a friend of mine, because I'm trying to pull him into payments. I'm trying to pull him onto the dark side of payments. And for him, like, everything is so overwhelming, because he's surrounded by people who seem to know it all, right? And I always tell him, hey, like, stay persistent, stay curious. Don't give up on understanding. Like, let's start with the basic things. And you have to understand these people are in there like for years. This is something that I would also give as an advice to any person who's starting out. Like, it can seem really complex and overwhelming, but with the time, like, you will get in there, and like, you will connect the dots and all of that. So yeah, connect with people, reach out to people, talk to them, because as I said, everyone loves talking about payments. So really use that. And yeah, these are, I think, things I would give as advices to any newcomers. Like, also go to the events, go to networkings, connect with the people, and the rest, I think, will fall into place quicker than you can imagine.
Yes, no, thank you. And I think that's really a good, conclusion to our conversation, because we are conducting this interviews, this kind of sharing experience ahead of MPE in Berlin, which is a great place to be for kind of learning, but also for connecting, for kind of meeting new people, and, having this kind of technical and non-technical discussions at the same time. So I think that's definitely something which I would recommend to be, and I'm sure we'll see each other there, and we will continue our discussion. I think indeed we can speak for hours about different topics and payments, and especially this kind of how it changes. It's quite impressive. Thank you very much, Alex, for joining, and see you in Berlin next year in March at MPE. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.